Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, we are in the shop today, and we won't be working on the SS, we'll be working on the Corvette just a little bit. Not really working on it, but going over it. And basically, we have taken the car off of the lift. As you guys can see, we are back in street trim. We have the Michelin Pod Sport Cup wheels up front, and we have those Z06 Speedline wheels in the back. Now, the reason I put the street tires back on is due to the fact that we will be shortly going on a test drive. Now, this is not the first test drive I've already done. Probably 3 or 4 of these, and I'm just trying to make sure the car is going to be great. Everything's sorted for the dyno. But before we go out on a test drive, let's go ahead and pop the hood and show you what we've been up to. All right, let's show you what's going on under here. So basically, what we've done is we have put the car back together. We filled the coolant back up. We put the battery, all that electrical stuff back together. All the gauges and everything are hooked up. One big difference you will see is you no longer really see the fuel lines coming into the fuel pressure regulator. That's because I actually took the fuel lines off a while ago. Took them off from the front of the passenger side and the front of the driver's side. Disconnected it from the fuel pressure regulator, and I actually took them off. And to protect the fuel lines from hitting the alternator again and sparking and doing all that stuff, I actually wrapped it in some Tech Flex hose wrap and put that on both of them. And then at the very end of the fuel line, I actually put some heat shrink tubing on both ends, so here, and also back near where the fuel rail is. So I put some 3-to-1 shrinking heat shrink tube on it, and this stuff is very thick. It's not the stuff that you just use on wires or whatnot. But it's kind of similar to what this is. It's probably a similar product. And I use the heat gun to shrink that down. And so that way we have that, just an extra layer of protection on there. Now, I'm not saying the Tech Flex hose would prevent an arc from happening, but it's just another barrier between an electrical line and a fuel line. It's just not something that you want sparking. So just adding that covering hopefully will resolve that problem. And the last thing to talk about under the hood is actually the fuel lines. Now, you guys might remember, I swear it was at least 5 weeks ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, on those Friday vlogs, I was talking about having to go up to SRI and pick up a fuel fitting. Well, let's go ahead and review what we've done with those fittings. First of all, the E85 sensor, that's the same. The Y block's the same, but everything pretty much coming to the front and back of that is different. We had to add a 90 going from the A&A fuel pump line. It's coming from the Holly pumps through the A&A line. So we had to add that 90 to go into the E85 sensor. And then our 180 degree fitting going from the Y block into the Edelbrock fuel rail down below, that was leaking. So I had initially replaced that with just one 90, a swivel 90, and then I had replaced that with a female to female. Well, that female to female leaked, so I don't know. I just had bad luck with this stuff. And that was actually a Frigola line that leaked. Or was it Jegs? No, it was a Frigola. So it was a Frigola 90 to a Frigola female to female 90. Well, the female to female leaked. I tried tightening it several times. I think it was just a weird combination of angles and stuff. Like, I would tighten one thing and it'd loosen the other thing. So what I did was I actually removed all the fuel fittings. I removed the male coming out of because I basically had a -6 male to male. I removed the -6 male to male and actually replaced it with a female to male. It's like a standard -6 fitting going this way. So we replaced that -6 female to female with the one end being female, the other end being male. That male connecting into this end, and then that coming into the Y block. So that fixed that leak. Then the other problem I ran into was I was actually having the passenger side fuel rail, the line coming out of it, hitting the firewall. This plastic cowl hitting the cowl. So I had to go back up to SRI, buy another 90 degree swivel fitting. I replaced that on the passenger side, and I basically flipped the line. So I put the straight edge on that end, the 90 on this end, and that basically moved everything over. So we've gone through a number of fittings, but we finally got a setup that works. And finally, the shop doesn't smell like fuel. Now, all these leaks that I had, it wasn't like it was spraying fuel. It was just dripping. It was like drip, drip, drip. It was enough for it to smell. And you're definitely smelling fuel and exhaust. And that being not far from the headers, which is never a good thing. So that's why we've had to go through probably 4 or 5 fittings, but that's all right. Thankfully, these fittings are pretty cheap, and most of them I'll probably be able to reuse on a later project, so not a bigger deal. And yeah, so that's the fuel fittings. I think we're good under the hood. So let's go ahead and get in the car. We'll go do a test drive, and we'll show you the Aeroforce gauge, and we finally did get that set up. As you can see, we are out in the Corvette doing a little bit of a test drive. We haven't had any issues so far, and we did want to show you the gauges that are working. So we've got the fuel pressure. Actually, the fuel pressure is on both of them. Let's try to show you the AFR. There you go. So both aftermarket gauges are working. We've got our fuel pressure as well as the air-fuel ratio. And if you guys notice a lot more sun, well, we have the glass top installed, so you guys will see a lot more of probably the sun coming in, and yeah, instead of it being so dark in here. But yeah, I mean, everything's working very well. We haven't had any major issues. I do have some low tire pressure I need to fix. Just one of the rear Mickey Thompsons needs to be filled up a little bit, but that's not that big of a deal. But yeah, we're gonna go for a little bit of a test drive, you know, try to get the car warmed up and see if we have any issues. And it is actually a very cold day on our test drive. If you guys can see, it's only 37 degrees outside. So we're going to get on it, but we're not going to beat on it because these drag radials do not like cold weather. This car hates the mismatched tires. So we've got those brand new Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's up front on the 19-inch cup wheels. Then in the back we have those 18-inch Z06 front wheels in the back. So I've got 19s up front, 18s in the back. And the sidewall is a little bit different because it's was that a 305, 30, 18, something like that. But that ratio is just off enough to where if I just punch it a little bit, and I'm in 5th gear, guys. If I punch it just even a little bit, the car just absolutely hates it. And you can actually feel it apply the rear brakes. So it's kind of weird, because it's trying to slow the car down. But yeah, the car absolutely hates those mismatched tires. So, but what we're going to do today is just get the car up to temperature. The coolant's good, oil pressure's good, battery's good, fuel's good. Alright guys, now I was going to do a bunch of pulls today, but as you guys can see, the State Highway Patrol is out. So anyways, lots of police out today, so we're not going to be doing any pulls, but I did record a pull that I did yesterday. I'll try to show you that, guys, when we get stopped and parked in a safe location. So another feature of this Interceptor over here is you can actually set that to record. Now I think it will only record what is displayed on the screen. So if you have your AFR or your boost level, or in our case, you know, our fuel pressure, it did record. You know, I think when it starts recording when you go full throttle, and then I think it lets off when you let off the gas. I think that's when it stops recording. So let's try to pull that up, and we'll show you guys what the log looked like. And there you go. That's the test drive I wanted to show you guys. Unfortunately, we ran into police on the highway, so we weren't able to get any good real rips or test launches or anything like that. So like I said, this was probably the 6th or 7th test drive that I've done on the car. I have done over 10 plus launches, and I have not noticed a fuel pressure drop. I recorded it one time, and it went from 60 down to about 54 psi of fuel, and then it stayed at 58, 60. And so, you know, a little bit of fuel drop, but nothing like we were seeing earlier with the old fuel system of that like 20 or 30 fuel pressure drop. So, you know, 5 or 6, that's probably normal. You know, I'm not too worried about that. So we should be good on the fuel system. There's no leaks. Everything is good. The transmission's working. The diff's working. So that's actually going to lead to the end of the video. Now, I've already called PCM. I made an appointment for a dyno. They fit me in 3 weeks. So hopefully we don't have any major issues with this. And we'll be able to get this thing, you know, fully tuned, everything working, and everything good to go. Now, I got like really only 2 other things to do in the car before we hit the dyno. One, I'm going to change the oil just because the motor's been open. I had the blower off. I had the, you know, so the intake ports were open. I had the valley covers open, you know, in the middle there. And I also had the valve covers off. So the whole top end of the motor's been open, and you really should change the oil after that. So we'll do that, and we'll get that done. But the last thing I'm going to do is actually tear apart the driver's side inner fender liner, take that off, and I am going to actually make sure that I have the fuses labeled for those 2 additional Holley fuel pumps that come from A&A. So when I put that system together, the wiring for it, I think I labeled the Hob switch, I think I labeled the relay to the Hob switch, but I don't think I labeled the actual fuse itself. And unfortunately, the way the wires and everything are tucked into that corner, the only thing that you can see are the fuses. So I need to make sure if they need to unplug one of the harnesses or the pumps, they can just pull the fuse that's going into the alternator, and that's all they'll need to do. So, you know, I want to make sure if they have to, because those pumps come on, I think it's 4 PSI and 8 PSI of boost. So, you know, we definitely don't want to have a overfueling problem that we could potentially have with this just being a mild engine, hopefully 700 horsepower, give or take, and go from there. So, like I said, that'll be the last thing, and that's going to be it for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. If you want to know when I upload new content, make sure you turn on your bell notifications. And if you guys want to help support the channel, check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.